Hello everybody, my name is Brett Tadlock, TN Artist. Welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, if you have, welcome back. So today I wanted to show you how I made this winter scene, kind of an abstract, masked off winter scene. And I wanted to show you how I did it in ArtRage and kind of go over some of the different processes so you can maybe do the same. And that way you can have fun creating some similar type things just using a few simple tools. So let me kind of pull up the main files and we'll get started and I'll show you how to do everything. So the first thing I did was I created a model background out of this blue, and this was really just made by playing around with some of the different brushes. You can use the default brushes in ArtRage to do this, and anything from these cloud brushes that are here, like any of these cloud smoke. You could also go to texture brushes and use some of these particle pores and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of smear it around and use a blue, softer blue and a little bit darker blue, and just kind of smear it and then push it around and pull it till you get something that you like. And that's what I got here, was a layout that I thought was modeled enough and gave me an interesting kind of a broken up background scenery to work with, and so started using that. And this, by the way, is 16 inches across by 20 inches tall. It is what I tend to use for my prints that I sell on either Etsy or just in person and that kind of stuff for these, because it turns out really well. You can get those printed up just about anywhere and use that. Now I do have a stencil pack that I've put together on Gumroad where you can get them. It's a new one that has, basically it's kind of my go-to stencils, and so I have 3 landscape packs that are available on Gumroad. So I have one that's free, you just kind of name your own price. I have this one that I put together, which is brushes and stencils, and it's $4.99. And I have another one that's a mega pack that has like 80 something different stencils and brushes that you can pay. And that one gets lifetime updates. So you can take a look at those if you need any of these tools and brushes and that kind of stuff. They're all available on Gumroad. I'll have the description and links below so you can click there. But I wanted to point that out because I almost always get a question about what brush are you using, what stencil you're using, where can I get those, blah, blah. So anyway, so I have those, and what I'm do next is I'm going to put in some stencils and kind of lay them out for how I like them and how I like them to start getting my composition. And that's really just a matter of picking different ones and that are available. And so just kind of playing around with them. And once you get all these laid out, what you can do is you move them around, you tell it to invert the stencil, okay? And then spacebar lets you drag it and move it. Control lets you drag it up and back by clicking and holding Control, holding your mouse button down, and then dragging to the left or right. Left makes it smaller, right makes it bigger. And then I place these where I want to have them in the composition. And that's kind of the nice thing about doing it this way, is that it really lets me get a feel for exactly what everything is going to look like in the painting. So I can just kind of set these around and mess around with them by just inverting. And the nice thing about these were all hand painted, so they have kind of that hand painted look because they were, and it gives a real natural, organic kind of feel. I just realized I repeated that one twice, but hey, that's okay, because what you have to do is you just lay it down here and then just flip horizontal, lay it here like so. Shift Control lets you stretch these and squish them around, so we can do that. Like so, and then the last one, I think that's plenty, so let's just remove this one. Okay, so I have those here, how I want them. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up to Tools, Stencil Options, and we're going to hide all stencils. Okay, so they're still there, but I don't have to see them right now. Now what I've done is I've made 2 layers. So I've got this main layer, I've got this layer above it that I just made, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fill this layer with white. So the fill bucket, you can push F to get it, and I have it set to current layer only. I'm just going to click it and fill that up. Oops, I forgot to click white. I had it earlier. There we go. Alright, takes it a second. Okay, now I'm going to go back to stencil options, and I'm going to show all stencils. And I'm going to go to eraser, instant erase. I have it set all the way to the max. And I'm just going to come back through and erase this. Now the reason I did the whole layer is because it just makes sure that I don't miss anything for it. So now I have that done. Then I can go back to Tools, Stencils, hide all stencils. And now I have these here, which you can't see too well. So let me do this. I'm going to go back to my first layer. I'm going to duplicate it right here to blend mode to multiply and get a richer, deeper blue there. Okay. So now I have these here. Now if I want to change these around, all I have to do is do Shift Control Alt T, which is a lot, but it lets me change the aspect ratio and move around that layer. So I'm going to move these up just slightly because I want to have them a little bit higher in the composition. And this is always different every time I do it, just because of the way I do it. So I'm not even looking at the original one. So then hit Enter to take the selection. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go ahead and merge this layer down because I know I'm going to keep that. And that way it's not taking up more memory. And above this layer, I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to take my selection tool right here. I'm going to go to freehand, and I'm going to just freehand in what will be a snowbank. Let that take control. Then I'm going to push Shift. Let that one take control. Then I can come back to my fill bucket and fill these layers like so. And so now you can see where I've got the snowbank in there. Now here's something else that you can do. So I did Control D to deselect. I'm going to do Control Z to undo the deselection and come back to here. Now what I can do if I want to add a little bit more shadows and stuff into this, you can start doing that here. So you can either do it right here where you have it selected, or you can come over and lock the layer and do it from there. So what I'm going to do, just a little bit of, I'm going to grab the airbrush tool and I'm going to select this blue. What I want to do is just put a little bit of shadow under here, like so. And you can detail this as much or as little as you want. And I'm going to select this white. I'm going to bring this back down in size by holding Shift and then dragging my cursor to the left. I just want just that little bit. I'm getting rid of this right here because I will just have it going off the page. I have this border around here that I like to do for when I do my prints so that it gives me a nicer, cleaner edge to work with. Alright, Control D. And see, that gives just that subtle shadow right there. Okay. Now then, the next thing I want to do is I want to add in some extra stuff back here. So I'm going to add just a little bit more to kind of make this meander some. Now you can leave if you want to make this look more like water. You can grab some of this darker color and then with the airbrush, just these vertical, like so. You can make it a little bit bigger. Add builds just a little bit of interest, and since I'm doing it the layer below, oops, it makes it super easy. But the main thing is just that these stay vertical. Go a little bit darker in these areas here because it would have a little bit more shadow, like so. And that starts to really sell that being a, lock this layer real quick, lock transparency, hit Alt to select my canvas and go get rid of that one little bit of blue that was there. Okay, now then I've got a little bit of shadow there. I'm going to add, unlock this layer again, go back up to it, Shift S to go back to my selection tool. I want to carry this horizon across just a little more. Okay. Grab my airbrush again, making sure that I'm on the white. Like so. Control D to deselect. And that starts giving me a little bit of that flow around to it, so that I've got this negative space here that I'm painting with. Okay. Now then, what I did up here, so I've got these here, but I want to add a little bit more snow flakes to it and stuff. So I have a stencil that's called Pebbles. So I bring it up here, Alt lets me turn it. Okay, we'll put it at an angle. Shift and Control lets me stretch it. So I'm going to stretch it just ever so slightly. I'm going to change to a new layer. Airbrush in. Some snowflakes coming down. Like so. So we've got that. We've got these coming in through here. And that gives us the snowflakes and all that. So that's how you can start laying this out and having this negative space here, which is the space, because really the way this looks now, this is your what's painted, this is what's not. So you got this negative space here that implies these trees, but they're just generic shapes. So the only other thing I would do here is maybe go back to my selection tool, go to the square one here, select all the way to here. Move this over just slightly. Oops, and do Shift Control I to invert. Add a layer. Go back to my fill bucket. Make sure I'm on white. And then fill. Take it a second, and then does it. The reason is that just gives a nice Control D, deselect, and then it gives a nice, clean, crisp edge there to it. So that's how you can kind of play around with this, and you can add more, subtract more, but the general idea is to do that. You can also take, if you wanted to add a little bit more water look to it, there is a stencil for water shimmer right here, and just go back to the airbrush and just kind of lightly go in and add some of that like so. And then you can just remove this stencil and remove this stencil. And so that way we've got this nice crisp winter scene to play around with. So there's a lot of different things you could do with this. Like you could make a sunset, you could make a mountain scene, whatever, you could do all that. The one other difference here that I haven't done that is in the other one, which is this. Let me add here because I just about forgot. So in the custom brushes, in that Gumroad one, I have a set of brushes that are trees. And what you do is they're watercolor brushes. So I'm going to grab some of this blue. I'm going to come down a little bit to a kind of a blue-gray. And I'm going to just brush these in using my different pressure here, and just kind of like so. Make it a little bit lighter, darker, like that. Then all I got to do is just erase. Actually, the easier way. Let's just come back to here. This, like so. Give it a second. Delete, Control D. I can just take, if I need to soften it even more, I can just take my palette knife and go with something like frosting and soften it in here. And that just makes it look like it's reflecting. Okay, so then you can add that in there as well. But you know, like I said, imagine what you could do with this. You could go in and add some details to the trees, but I think the interesting part of this is that these are just kind of cut out and it's the negative space. I liked it. I put it up on my one of my Etsy stores, and you know, I've already had people wanting to buy some that contacted me from seeing it on Facebook and stuff. So I probably will have some sales of this here shortly. So just because it's a different kind of thing, I just wanted to show you that real quick. Just a fast video on how I did this. If you want to create this background like we have here, then let me show you that real quick on kind of some ways that you can do that. Hide all this. So the way you can do that background is just come to your custom brushes and get something like the cloud. And I'm gonna get part of the reason I wasn't doing it in the video is that I'm going to get a lot of lag since I'm recording at the same time. And you really just kind of play around with where you want the different colors and lights and whites and all of that, and just kind of smear it around and click on it. You can use, like I said, that one. You can use anything. Heck, you could even use like the rose petals and stuff to get this kind of background. Then just go to your palette knife and using the heavy blurred frosting or one like that, just start softening these into each other by blending them like so. And if you have my watercolor brush set from that mega pack, you can use some of those for this too. If you don't, these are just the standard ArtRage brushes. But anyway, you just kind of keep playing around with that, and then you can use that same pebbles one, or you can go to the custom brush, and for textures there is particle snow. You can add, that's where you can add in some of those splatters and stuff that you saw just by increasing it. And again, add it in, soften it back, you know, just kind of hit it here and there, erase some stuff. And it's one of those things you just kind of relax and play around. That's why I didn't want to put a whole lot of it in here, because it took me a little while to get it to where I liked it. But that's how I do it. It's just kind of smeared around here. If you have another program like Rebel, you can use that for their watercolor engine and kind of go with that. But you can also create the same thing here. It just takes a little bit more time. So anyway, that's how to get those kind of negative space paintings. And I think it turns out looking pretty cool as far as, you know, just something different, and how to play around with it and really kind of make some interesting looks. And it's, you know, it already got some interest for me for selling prints, so maybe you can do something similar and, you know, make a little on the side as well, or make some Christmas cards or holiday cards or whatever. Hope you got something out of this. If you have questions, leave them below. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and, you know, check out the brushes on Gumroad. I appreciate you watching. Thanks.